Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever everybody's from. Thank you for joining us today to talk about my favourite thing, which is Picote Flexi-Sliplining. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to take you through the benefits of Flexi-Sliplining and how it works and the applications it can be used for. And then I'll hand you over to Dan, who will show the practical side, how it works. And then we'll take you through a couple of our more recent case studies as well, so you can see how it's been working with Picote. So I think the first thing to do is probably to hand you over to Richard, who I think's got a PowerPoint waiting in the wings. So we can just go through some of those Picote Flexi-Sliplining benefits. Well, while I'm waiting for that to be queued up, I'll just introduce you to the team that we have on hand. So you can see Dan on screen at the moment. Dan Holmes is our senior technical trainer based out of Sandhurst in the UK. Behind the scenes, we've got Stephen Richardson, who's our trainee technician. And then we've also got Richard Swan, who's our Director of Technical Client Services, who's ready to give the presentation in a minute. And also behind the scenes, we've got Steph Richardson, who is our Marketing and Communications Manager. And of course, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dawn Gregg and I'm Senior Director at Picote. So I can see that Richard's now got this teed up, or Steph has. So I think we're just going to quickly show you some video of how it all works together. And then we'll take you through some of those benefits. So Richard, maybe you can talk us through this video.
I can do, yes. Let's start the video first. So Picote Flexi-Sliplining, it's a unique system. Looks like a twin ward pipe, but it's a triple ward pipe. We join it together using a small welding rig, and we use electrofusion joints here. So before we do anything, we prepare the end of the pipes, clean them up, then insert the electrofusion. On the inside, we have a rod and an inflatable bung. So what the guys there have just inflated the bung. That stops any internal bead weld. You can see here that once it's welded, it's very light. Here we're putting the towing head in. You will see it's not solid. Therefore, we have flow through the pipe as we're installing it. We go in via the manhole. We have the bracket frame over the manhole, and we can keep the flow live while we do it. Here they're getting now. They've connected the winch, so we push a winch cable from manhole to manhole. That's the larger winch, and we pull it in. And you can see here it goes round the inversion frame, the top frame, turns round on itself, and then we just winch it straight through. Goes in about 8 meters per minute. Once we've got it in manhole to manhole, we leave it half an hour for any stretch to go, and then we just seal the ends with either an epoxy putty or a cementitious material. Benefits: this is pipes pre-manufactured in 6 meter lengths. We weld it together. I said it's not a twin ward one. It's no emissions. There's no hazardous chemicals. There's no toxic materials here. We can install it through the manhole, so we have no lead-in trench. There's no need to bypass, put bypass pumps in. It's a 2-man operation, and generally you can have 1 man on site welding the pipes together. When it comes to installing it and winching it through, then that's a 2-man one. The pipe is manufactured. It's got a stiffness as SN8, apart from the DN300, which is an SN3 from memory. But it's a standalone pipe, 50 years life expectancy, and it's DIBt certified. There's no need for passos. When we put it in, there's a slight reduction, obviously, in diameter, but our flow rates are massively improved, because normally you've got a very corroded cast iron pipe, you've got clay pipes and concrete pipes with displaced joints, etc. So it's a very, very easy system very cost effective. Where do we use it? So we used it in some of the case studies you'll see we talked to attend where you've got live infiltration coming into the pipe, and there's no way of we don't need to put in over pumping to deal with that. We can use it in tidal areas where you get different conditions at low tide or high tide, which again means that at high tide, if you've got infiltration or external pressures, a lot of the other rehab systems you can't use. Where you've got deformed pipes, you can install certainly a smaller diameter, and then we can grout the annulus to hold it in place. We've had it, we had it tested at WRC, the Water Research Centre, in accordance with RIS 43501, which is for plastic pipes and twin wall pipes against Appendix B, and that is a static water jetting test, unlike the DIBt and the European test that have a moving nozzle. Ours is the WRC one's a static one, and it passed that at 180 bar successfully. We've now got our connection collar system. We've now got glass fiber connection collars, so we now have a way of reinstating lateral connections. We'll need access at the top end of the lateral, and then we can go down with the Picote millers and reinstatement tools, and then we can install a GRP connection collar. Chemical resistance. This is basically a PE type pipe, therefore it's great for factories and processing plants, etc. as well. I think now we go, if I stop sharing, we'll go over to Dan. Good afternoon, Dan.
Hello, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I'll
Good.
leave you to do the talk through, and I'll go silent.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the equipment that we use in order to firstly weld this pipe together and then drag it into an existing pipe. So what we've got on the tabletop here is a frame which we manufacture ourselves, and the pipe gets clamped into it. Now the pipe is primarily used from DN100 to DN300, and the pipe comes in 6 meter long sticks. And what we do on this frame with the various size of clamps that we have is we cut the ends of the pipe, which creates a cup because there are ridges along. We cut on the center of the ridge, and that creates a cup on either side. So I'll show you what I mean by using the cutter on this side of the pipe. So all I'm going to do is just trim the end up like so. Now, what that does is it creates a cup on this side of the pipe as well. Now I've got a cup on both sides of the pipe. What I can now do is install a collar. This is an oversized collar, so you can see it from where you are against me. So that collar then fits inside that cup that I've just cut. The frame is then clamped together like so, and we rig it up to our welding machine. Now, what we then do is we will put a bag inside the pipe so that it sits in the middle of that weld, and we inflate it. That stops that plastic from dripping or sagging down into the pipe once we've welded it. The welding times differ depending on the size of the pipe. So for example, this is a 140 pipe. This will take around about 7 minutes per weld. Once we get up to the 270 pipe, which is the pipe we would use or install inside 300 mil, you're looking at nearly 27 minutes in order for the weld to take place. So just bear that in mind when it actually comes to installing, that the welding times do, so as the pipes get bigger, the welding times get longer, which means the installation time takes longer as well. The other thing to note about this particular welding machine and the welding machines that we use is that we log all the data for each weld, and that's all downloadable. So it records things like the ambient temperature, how long the weld took, and then how long the cool down was for each one. So as part of a QA system, it's ideal. Okay, so if that was then welded, I'll take this piece out here because there's a weld at the end that you can have a look at. I'll bring it over to the camera. So as you can see, those are the 2 electrodes that go in into the welding machine. And if I bring the pipe up towards you, turn it ever so slightly, see there should be a weld on that ring there. You can barely see it. That's how tight it is. So once these are then welded up together, as Richard mentioned, they're very, very strong bit of pipe. The welds are very strong as well. So that then leads us on to actually putting the towing head in and starting to pull it in. So here, for example, is a towing head. Towing heads are fitted inside the pipe. This allows us to pull the pipe in whilst the pipe is still in operation. So we don't need to over pump with any of the repairs that we do. This is what a larger towing head looks like when it's outside of the pipe. That gets, well, you drill through the pipe, bolt this into the inside of the pipe, and then we start to pull it through. This one has come straight from site. So towing head in the front, just there, and we had a safety rope on the back. Once it came into the manhole, we just cut it all off and then lifted it straight out. Okay, but that allows us to get to this stage. Want to move across even? Okay, so once you've got to this stage, this is going to be at the manhole, either an upstream or downstream, doesn't really matter. So what we would then do is we would have 80 meters or so of pipe in that direction, and this is the manhole that we're going to actually launch into. As you can see, the pipe bends, although it's very, very strong, it bends quite nicely, and then we can install this product through existing manholes. There's no need for a slip trench on this kind of product, so we go straight into an existing manhole. We bend it down and into the manhole, and at the bottom of the manhole we have a shoe which looks similar to this, or actually looks like this, to just be smaller for this size of pipe, and this is what guides the pipe round the last bit, around the last bend, and actually into the pipe that we want to line. Okay, so very easy to set up. You just set that up on the top of the manhole, guide the pipe down, and then drag it in. And then we would use a small winch like this on a plate. This will be fitted on the other manhole. There will be a rope between the two. The rope just gets pulled up around this capstan winch, and that's enough to drag that pipe between the two manholes. So yeah, 2-man team, no slip trench. Towing head fits inside the pipe. This is a 1-ton winch. We can double up the rope on the towing heads, so we can get an increase in tonnage. So we can turn this 1-ton battery capstan winch into a 2-ton winch just by doubling up the rope on it. Yeah, we've pulled in 270 mil pipe, 45 meters. We pulled in with this 1-ton winch, and it went in no problem. And ultimately, excuse me, you end up with an increased flow rate, better chemical resistance, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, they're the 3 main important parts of all the equipment that we use when we're doing flexi slip lining. Very easy to install, very low cost for what you get, and yeah, lasts a long time. So all good. Who am I handing over to? Richard, am I handing back to you?
Yes. Sorry, I was talking away and I was on the mic.
Ah, okay.
So thanks, Dan, for that really good walkthrough of the other pieces of equipment. I did catch or take crafty few overhead photos of you, which we'll share with around the world. Anyway, I'm going to share my screen again. So we've got a couple of simple case studies that we've done. The first one we did was on the Isle of Wight back last year. The main issue here was that a repair was needed on the foul water discharge. It was a discharge to the sea pipe. It was 150 mil 6-inch blade pipe. It was running from a private treatment works to a sea outfall. It got roots in there. We had tidal infiltration. There was multiple cracks and fractures a lot at different locations throughout the outfall. And at high tide, there was a lot of seawater infiltration. So the planned works was to install 180 meters of the DN 140 Flexi-Slip pipe. And that was going to be in 2 pools. So we had three manholes. The guys had to clean the pipes first, and that was they were all cleaned the week before we turned up on site. We had tidal because we had tidal considerations. It meant that the pipe was going to be welded on day 1 and pouring on day 2. Key benefits on this project: it was a 2 days on site with a 2-man crew, resulted in and even though we went down to a smaller diameter pipe, we resulted in increased flow rates. And there's a little bit of, you can see here the tree roots and the condition of the etc. Top photos of the condition there, and you can see once we'd installed the pipe, then the guys had reinstated the benching in the manhole and did a really good job there. So here you can see the pipe going in. You can see the background, the small damage to the manholes, etc. So this is an ideal solution because of the lengths that we were welding together, and the weight of the pipe meant it was easy to move the pipe around on that one. And like, obviously there's no issues with flow or infiltration stopping the work being undertaken. The next one was done a few weeks ago, and we had the guys, the donkeys from HSE, watching over what we were doing all of the time. So this was down in Bewley. It was a repair needed. It was 2 80-meter pipes run underneath the River Bewley, which were severely corroded. And not only that, the river was tidal as well. So we had water ingress at different levels at different times of the stage of the tide. There's also environmental challenges here that whatever of the system that we used to repair had to be able to cope with the infiltration, the exfiltration. It had to add be structural because of the condition of the host pipe, and because it was leaking everywhere. You could not. There was a high risk for using some rehab systems where we could actually allow chemicals to seep into the water and create a pollution incident. This was the on site for 3 days on site. We had a 3-man crew, and Picote, Dan and Stephen welded the pipes and set it up, and then the contractor then was involved in installing, and we installed 2 80-meter long pipes, and solved the problem for the water company. And we got a little bit here of the the video. You can see here we've got it all laid out. There's no restrictions. You can see the river there. That's where we're going underneath, near those, between those two houses on the other side of the river. Like I said, we had the local donkeys inspecting the work that we were doing through the 3 days we're there. But again, very easy, very simple to install, and it's really good installation. Dawn, I'll hand back over to you for the summary.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. There have been some other jobs that we've been involved with, just to mention, where because they've gone down more than one diameter, and in this case they went down more than one diameter, but they decided not to do any further grouting because of the condition of the pipe. But it is the case, isn't it, Richard, that sometimes that if you go down more than one diameter, then that is something you would have to calculate and do.
Yes, and the other thing is that before we do anything, we run a short dummy through, just to check that we can actually pull the pipe from one end to the other. So we have a cone made up which we put through. Any displaced joints, we've got displaced joints that are causing the problem, we can actually grind them away with the concrete cutter and the Picote Maxi Miller. So yeah, we use the millers to obviously do a lot of the preparation work.
Excellent. So if anybody does have any questions, you can pop them in the chat or the Q&A now, and we'll be happy to answer those. It could be that you have some questions. Some people ask us about, oh, this is great, but they ask about CIPP. This is not intended to replace CIPP in any way. So this is in situations you can't use CIPP lining. So like Richard said, if there's high groundwater levels or it's a tidal area, then you have those constraints. The pipe is full of water, so you're not going to be lining that. So this gives a really good option in those situations. And like Richard said, yes, you're going down by one pipe diameter, or even in some cases it's more than that, but what you're gaining is so much more. So of course it's increasing the flow in those situations, and it's getting out of that pipe full of water situation, which is good. There's a lot of information about this on the internet. We have got everything on our website, picotegroup.com, and there should be some information up then on picoteinstitute.com as well. But I know Steph's been busy in the background. She always preempts everything. She's very organised and puts information in the chat for us. So she's busy squirreling away at that in the background. So if you look at your chat, you'll see information, including our latest catalogue. That's got more information about the pipe sizes themselves, the outer diameter and inner diameter of those pipe sizes, as well as all the videos and other information that you might need there and what each tool is used for. But I hope a key takeaway from this, aside from the fact that this is a very green option, it literally using a two-man crew at a time when, manpower resources are always hard to come by for skilled labourers, and so only using a two-man crew is very attractive. The fact that you can weld this in 6 meter sticks, you don't need to take a great big traditional truck to site, because you just need a normal sort of sized van that you can take these 6 meter sticks in, weld them on site, so there's less waste anyway. And then when it's appropriate to start pulling in, depending on tidal constraints, you can start to do that. But it's an incredibly green option. One job that we did, there was ecological concerns around the type of soil that there was in the area, and the local ecosystem, they didn't want to disrupt that in any way. So this was a fantastic option for that, because there's, like Richard said earlier, there's no toxic waste, there's no emissions before or after installation. These are major bonuses in these types of areas where you do have to really consider the conservation of the area. So there's that, alongside the fact that it's a very good option for high groundwater level areas or tidal areas. And as you can see, the footprint is so small, the amount of equipment you need is so minimal. So aside from needing a very minimal team, this is very low risk in terms of, you know, you're, like Richard said, you pull a dolly through first to make sure that you can get the pipe through. But installation risk is very, very low on something like this, which is another very attractive benefit of it. So I think that there's a lot of very good pluses to using this type of system. And it's been used in around 16, 17 countries worldwide so far, and over 80 kilometres has been installed to date as well. So even though in some ways it's relatively new, it has been used a lot in the past. It's just that we've now upgraded all the equipment, so this is something that can be done anywhere by anyone. And because there's no slip line and trench, the thing that just fills my heart with joy is this is a completely trenchless manhole to manhole operation. So in an age where we need to really be thinking about our carbon footprint, I think this is a very, very, very credible option for contractors. So I don't see any questions. Steph has been also putting up the case study about the Isle of Wight. I would like to thank PBF Drainage, because they're the ones who did that work on the Isle of Wight and very kindly let us use their footage and their photographs and information. So thanks to them. And thanks also to our partners Renos, who really came up with the system originally, but also you know, they're the ones who've been out there installing this in many countries around the world, and they give us very good feedback and information as well. So we really appreciate them, and we appreciate the video that they allowed us to use at the beginning of the presentation as well. I think if we don't have any further information, all I can say is that please feel free to reach out to myself or to Richard or Dan or any of the rest of the team. We're very passionate about this system, and we'd be more than happy to discuss it further with you. Alternatively, of course, please reach out to your reseller, and they will also take you through the stages and how you can get started. But really, for a very minimal setup, this is DN100 to DN300. I know that occasionally it can be a little bit more depending on what the client can accept for gravity sewer pipe. So it's a really good system with very, very minimal setup, very minimal training, minimal manpower required. So what more could you want? That's all I can say. Appreciate you very much for joining us today. This is actually the last in our Picote series of webinars until after summer. So I'd like to thank all of you for your attention. All of our previous webinars are up there on our website, picotegroup.com. So if you want to look over them at any point, please feel free to do that. And this webinar will then go up there at some point in the next week or so as well. However, don't despair, because we do have another webinar with the Pipeline Industries Guild. That's next week on the 28th of May at 12 noon BST. And that's on Picote Aqua, high-speed cleaning for water mains. So be sure to register for that via the Pipeline Industries Guild or via Picote. We'll make sure that you get those details too. And I'm sure Steph will send those out to you as well. So, no questions? It's just such a great system. So, yeah, like I say, please reach out to me. Please reach out to your resellers. Reach out to Richard, Dan, who's been out there doing the work. Anything at all, just come back and let us know. I would like to thank Dan and for his presentation, and Richard for taking us through all those benefits in case study. Thanks, Dan. And thanks to Steve for taking all the footage in the background. and Steph for making sure you get all the information. Here she is. She's still typing it all in. There you go. She's typed in the PIG webinar so you can register for Picote Aqua for next week. All right, if you do need our contact details, they're on the screen, but of course, many of you probably know us already. If you don't, those are our contact details. They can also be found on picotegroup.com as well, or on picoteinstitute.com. So all I can say is enjoy the sunshine, hopefully, wherever you are. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, take care. Thank you.